Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Very awesome. Good morning to those who are following us through the internet, through the Facebook. So today we're going to have a talk by our friend Tiago about a very important topic, building family in harmony. And I invite everyone to join us. Before we start, we're going to have our first initial reading by our friend Mateus. And after that, we're going to have our initial prayer by our friend Teresa.
The opportunities for moral improvement that life allows us should be taken advantage of wisely and immediately. The march of time is inevitable, and an occasion neglected is lost forever. Time and wind never come back. Thus, it is a liberating blessing to utilize every opportunity for inner growth. Stay alert in order to take the most advantage of the hours of your earthly existence.
So let us all now connect our hearts and our minds with God our Creator, with the Jesus our Master, and with all the good spirits here present. Now let's first of all thank them for the opportunity of being here today, so we all can learn together. And let's ask that the good spirits here present enlighten our brother Tiago during his lecture, so he can help us to learn a little bit more from the gospel that Jesus brought to us. And so be it. Tiago, it's all yours.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We didn't have much to do during the long weekend, so we decided to come here to the Spiritist Center. Thank you very much for coming. I thought that everything was going to be virtual. The people were on their way to their cottage or there watching through Facebook. No, very nice that you're all here. I'm very happy to see that you're all interested in Spiritism, that you're all interested in growing, and you're all interested in family. And this is a very important topic, like Joyce was saying, because for me, when I was reading and trying to understand about the topic, because when I was giving the topic, I didn't know everything, and I still don't know everything. We are still getting there, learning and getting more information and trying to connect that information that we receive with our own lives. And even on the way here, I was talking to my wife and I learned a little more. And we were talking about family, and we were talking about parenting, and we were talking about generations. And all of those opportunities help us, not only on the information, but in living in family. And of course, the first question that I made was, what is a family? And that changes everything. Because for some, we would say family is marriage. For some, they would say family is when two people get together and live together, under the same roof. For some others would say there are people that get together, that connect with each other through similar interests, through similar goals in life, through fraternity. And usually when we talk about family, we don't say it, but some of us would feel as well that family is a place where we try to solve lots of struggles and issues, where we try to learn from living together with so much diversity of ideas, of opinions, of values. So at the end of the day, all of that, all of those layers would comprise what family would be. And the title is also very appropriate, because in each one of those layers, building family harmony can be applied to all of that.— building harmony is something that we all try to do, And in Spiritism, we know that the spirits unite based on the correspondence of ideas. When there is a harmony of thought, where there is a harmony of feeling, where there is a harmony of tendencies, of impulses. So that's how I started my inquiries on what family would be and how to bring that together and share this with you. And at the end of the day, I decided to bring a more spontaneous reflection, because this is very dynamic. In my opinion, as dynamic as the understanding of family that we have today. If we were talking 40, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, probably we would talk about family in a certain way. Probably we would have a certain idea of a certain stereotype of what family would be. Today, every one of us may have one living experience of what family is, and this is all okay. And actually, always it has been okay. But as humans, we put value on things. We separate each other. We compare each other, therefore comparing families, therefore comparing values, and putting those values in a degree of superior, inferior, more, less, right, wrong. And here we are today in the 21st century of our lives, re-evaluating again what family is, what family values are. And our humanity is trying to catch up with the understanding that we have on the divine laws, because the natural laws or the divine laws are the ones that nurture us to make the changes that we need to make to change our own laws and our own way to understand and to put value, for instance, on family. And of course, when we talk about family, many of us would talk about marriage, many of us would talk about home, many of us would talk about parenting. And all of that is based, number one, with the idea of sympathy and antipathy. That is the first lesson that I got from the Spiritism when talking about family. And it is there in the Spiritist book, the questions 939 and 940, in one specific section called Antipathetic Unions. We all know that the spirits unite through affinity of ideas, of tendencies, of level of evolution. Why then Allan Kardec would interest himself in asking the spirits about the antipathetic unions? I think all of us understand a little bit that. Because we all have our dreams and our wishes about living in harmony with each other. And the reality shows us something different. And I think Allan Kardec was very wise to bring those questions to the spirits to understand from the point of view of the divine laws, from the point of view of the spirituality, what would that mean? And probably why we would have so much antipathetic unions if at the end of the day the goal is to live in harmony. And many of us are absolutely unable to untie those knots of antipathetic unions. What is wrong with that, right? Why so many unions based on conflict, on hatred sometimes, on the difficulty to get along? There we go. And I will read for you because those words are much more important than my own. Since sympathetic spirits are led to meet one another, obviously, why is that among incarnate spirits, affection is frequently only one-sided, and sincere love is received with indifference or even repulsion? Moreover, can't the liveliest affection between two persons turn into dislike and sometimes hatred? And then, even without reading the answer, I already started reflecting, right? Isn't it true that sometimes we meet someone and what happens? We all talk about love at first sight, right? We say only the good in someone. That is like the world disappears and then suddenly there we are. Yeah, I was looking to you a little bit. You were looking back. I like to make eye contact, and that's good because it makes sense. And it's good that I connect. And after that period of time where the world doesn't exist and we only see the best in someone, that's when we say that the reality kicks in, right? So something was going on before to put us together, and then suddenly we start revealing ourselves and the other starts revealing themselves in a way that doesn't correspond anymore with those initial feelings of sympathy. Of course, the spirits are very clear, they are very direct with Allan Kardec, and they tell us in a very direct way exactly like, hey folks, you gotta use your brain, you gotta use your reason, and you're going to understand that because this is important for you. Can't you understand that this may be a punishment, albeit a passing one? And here, remember that the spirits in the 1800s, they are talking about punishment. And we know today that this is a matter of a natural consequence of our own actions. What they were calling punishment, which has to do a lot with translation as well, it has to do with consequences that we face that have to do with our own actions. Probably in the past, and some of them even in this lifetime. And the spirits will continue saying, some of you judge only by physical appearances. And they are obliged to live together only to realize afterwards that they would not look at each other as spirits. They will not look at each other as complete beings. They will only look at each other from the most superficial point of view, the material, and that involves the sensual point of view as well. How can this person satisfy me immediately? Many unions, and we were talking about that before the lecture, how many times we unite thinking that we are looking at the whole person, but we were looking sometimes at one aspect of the person that we wanted to see. Some of those aspects that would correspond to our own aspirations. Or sometimes, we don't like to think that, but sometimes we are a little bit selfish. And we unite with people because they can serve us to certain purpose. There you go. The spirits were very clear, without going around and telling us, you don't get united because you are connected through your ideas, through your affinity of, aspirations. No. And that comes as a contrary idea of some of our own ways to understand things. The first impressions are the ones that stick with us, right? Some of times we would say that. And the Spirit said that is not true. Many times we connect with people based on the projection of our own aspirations, what we want to see in others. There we have half of the disharmony that we may not see in the first place, but gradually when we start seeing other sides of the person, when the person starts revealing themselves because they cannot sustain that place and we cannot sustain that place, where we are only showing to the other person what they want to see. Because also this is not about us. We are much more than that. We are, as I like to say, we are the good, the bad, and the ugly. We are the good tendencies that we have. We are the result of thousands and thousands of incarnations of evolution. we are also the result of missteps that we take along the way. And relationships that we have today and families that we build today, they are also based on the need to continue our process of education and education of relationships. And sometimes we also get together to amend things that we have done that may have caused a lot of pain to those who are together beside us. Therefore, sometimes we meet someone and we have such a sympathy and affinity and we have such good feelings towards them, and gradually they start showing towards us a lot of antipathy, or we start showing affection, and suddenly this person looks different that they were before, and we become the ones not caring about their expression of affection to us, and we start rejecting it. And sometimes we don't understand why we don't like anymore those traits of the person that were exactly those that attracted us in the first place. Because remember, I always like to think that I'm the one that needs to change. I'm the one that needs to learn. So then I cannot simply say that this person is acting with me with antipathy, but I may be the one doing that too, even though I may not realize or might be hard to accept. Therefore, understanding that after a while, those who we had affinity with, we enter in a process of, changing that harmony, and the antipathy comes into place. Many times it is because the ties that united us are based on a recovery and reconciliation process. We were created by God to love one another. By the moment that we go astray from the design that God had for us to love each other, God will give us the opportunity in next experiences incarnating in order to rebuild that love. When this is difficult, we don't need to look back to think, what have we done? We need to look forward to, how can I do that time different in order to finally love, accept the love, forgive when there is no love, and help to build that together in family. Because at the end of the day, the family is the most precious organism, the most precious body where we can put that in practice. And I can give you a simple proof of that. How many families we know that one partner or one member of the family is the best worker, is the most appreciated employee in their company, and they are the best friend in their social circle, and they are the funniest person in their golf club agremiation, but they are tyrannic at home. The most common source of conflict and frustration and disappointment is why this person is so nice with everybody else, but in family it is not. And right now we start having a little bit of understanding on that. And of course that I would cite our friend Haroldo, who in a very brilliant and simple way explains that. And he says, we usually can only hurt the people that are closer. And I like that expression. Therefore, if we apply this to family, it fits 100%. Because we hurt those who are close. Therefore, if we give one step beyond, therefore, we have the potential to do better to those who are closer as well. if we see that we are hurting and being hurt by those who are closer to us, that is a sign for us that God is giving us a great opportunity to do different and to do better and to rebuild those relationships from hatred to love, from from ignorance and from despise to understanding and the respect. At the end of the day, promoting the fraternity, which starts in the core of the family, which again, that is another word that is very important, and that word is home. So then when think about family, many of us connect with home as well. So let's think about home. Where does that work? That works at home. How can I build a home? Because we can be sharing the same house, we can be sharing the same building, but are we at home? Are we creating that concept of that space that is not a physical space, where we are able to exchange feelings, where we feel respected, where we can help the other to grow in values, in moral values, where we can educate each other, where we can practice the respect to each other that we are going to expand to every other relationship that we have. So, sympathy and antipathy would be the number one reflection that I would have in order to understand what family is from the point of view of the immortal spirit. The family starts small, but we know that our family at the end of the day is the humanity. It is every one of us. God created all of us in the same level, with the same destination, and with the same purpose. And that purpose ultimately is to love one another. How can we know that for sure? And we can get to know that from one specific passage. And I always love to bring Jesus himself, because of course, because no one would tell us with more clarity and in a more targeted way what he would mean for us. Of course, that using the Spiritism, that's what we are doing here, we are unveiling different meanings for us. We are expanding that meaning to different areas in our lives. But the source, but the core, but the essence always comes from Jesus. And for those who are still in doubt in every aspect of our lives, we will see that Jesus himself will always have a word of advice, of wisdom, or of consolation that can help us. And when he says, first of all, when he was speaking in the book of Matthew and the chapter 12, he was speaking to a group of people in a house. And then suddenly some of his followers come to him and say, "Master, your mother and your brothers are looking for you and they want to speak to you." Obviously, we understand today that even though Jesus came with the mission to really reveal to us the real path of spiritual evolution, to really connect us with God through his perfect example, him being the most perfect being that humanity ever met, and being the governor of this entire planet, and the one who knows us very well individually, he would not, first of all, be contrary to anything that is good, to anything that is correct. But he tells his followers in that moment, "Who is my mother? And who are my brothers?" Apparently he was questioning even the affiliation that he would have, as if he was ignoring his mother and his brothers. But we also know that as ourselves, we don't know everything that Jesus did. We don't understand everything that Jesus did yet. There is a lot that is still a mystery for us, for our lack of understanding. Therefore, Jesus being the only one purified completely, sometimes his mother and his brothers also didn't understand him fully. It is known as well that some of his brothers thought that he was losing his mind, which we know he was not, but in many ways, many of the people who were close to Jesus didn't understand him. But then he says, here in that group of people that were listening to him, sharing a lot of his morals, his values, his teachings, his lessons, here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my mother and is my brothers. Here, Jesus is not rejecting the idea of family, but in fact he's pointing out to us that the family as constituted in the way that we have today with the blood ties don't end in the blood, and not necessarily are stronger because of the blood. It is not only physical descendants that really connects people together. The idea that we are to expand the conception of family, the relationships that we establish, and the way that we connect with each other starts with our bloodline family, but expands. And if we still are having struggle and challenges while in this nuclear family, we better keep working, because from there will be more. And slowly and gradually we will expand our quality of the relationships that we establish in family to every single relationship that we have in our lives today and on. Now, thinking specifically about family, let's just think about family as the family that we know today here on earth. After having that idea, that conception of what the family is for the immortal spirit, then we can think, okay, having that understanding in mind, how can I then apply that in our mundane lives here? We still get married, we still get together with people, we still love and dislove, we still like and dislike, we still get married, we still get divorced. In this life we see everything going on. We see different configurations of family, everything. So how can that idea make sense in the lives that we are living today? Especially when we carry ourselves some values and some morals and some doctrines that we probably bring for centuries as well. Many of us come with that idea that marriage is the union of a woman and a man. Many come with that idea that marriage, when it's consumed, can never be broken. Many of us come with that idea that if I get married, I need to have kids. I need to pass that forward. And then it goes. We all come with those ideas and those conceptions as well. And we carry this for a long time. And we can sometimes clash, because there is a clash of values, of ideas. And today we have everything. We have every single avenue. And we need to make choices. What are those that are right or wrong? Who are we to say? What is the measure? Again, the measure is how are we with the other? How is the other with us? Are we treating each other well? In this family nucleus, are we promoting moral educations? Are we fostering a healthy and a safe environment? Or we are just feeding the hatred and the disharmony or the antipathy? Then, in a beautiful book, which is called in Portuguese O Consolador, in English would be the Consoler, the Spirit Emmanuel, through the hands of Francisco Cândido Xavier, he answers hundreds and hundreds of questions. Among them, I say we, because those questions represent some of our own, and his answers represent some of the answers for questions that we have inside. So here we ask the Spirit Emmanuel, first of all, is the family built? Is the family configuration? Who is gonna be who in the family? Who's gonna be the mother? Who's gonna be the father? Who's gonna be the children? Are we going to adopt? We're not going to adopt. Is this planned before we arrive? Or we make that up when we arrive here? How does that happen? Right? We do have a very important passage that is related with that question, that comes from the book of Matthew as well. In the chapter 19, Jesus says something very interesting. What God has joined, let men not separate. Then of course we can ask ourselves, well, so then was it God's design that I am in this family? Was the choice that I made just, was I guided in some way? Did I meet this person in the spiritual world and then we decided to get together here as well? How does that happen? Are we free to choose or not? And of course, that the Spirit Emmanuel is very clear with us. The family constitution is planned in the spiritual world. The families that have a purpose to be here on earth could be an educational purpose, could be learning how to be fraternal to each other, could be a family in a mission to help many other spirits, or those who are together in order to make amends to each other. They are planned in the spiritual world. It is a matter of creating the real, definitive and everlasting fraternity. Every union of souls that is planned in the spiritual world has the ultimate goal to promote everlasting fraternity. That would be, if we take this seriously, that would be the solution for 75% of our relationship problems in our lives. Because if we do have antipathy, it is our job, our responsibility to use all the resources that we have at hand to understand, first of all, each other. Second, to understand the other. And third, to work on those elements to really promote fraternity. Because if God has a design for us to be in everlasting fraternity, there is no antipathy or hatred or disliking that is definitive. The only thing that is everlasting is love and fraternity. Therefore, The lesson that I can take from that, and I believe that all of us could take from that, every single time that we have one disagreement, we need to have in mind that at least a little bit of the door needs to be open for reconciliation, for agreement in some way. Every time that we disagree, it is an opportunity to sit and to understand that we are different, that we have things to work on, that we don't need to agree necessarily with each other, but we have the responsibility to respect. Many relationships exist to give us the opportunity to respect that most things and most opinions and most values that exist in this life are not based on our own liking. We must respect that the other has the same rights as I do. Therefore, it is not difficult to understand. If we want to go back in time, we only look at what we are living today, and that's going to be enough. That if we disagree too much, and if someone is always criticizing every single one of our decisions, may as well be that we didn't use the opportunity that we had to guide someone one day. Maybe we didn't look at their own points of view for a while. Therefore, having the opportunity to see things from the other side and to learn how to respect that other people also have opinions, values, interests that also need to be respected. We are here not because we are going to unite each other, and we were talking about that as well before. We are not two halves to be together to agree with everything. We are not two sides of a mirror. We are whole spirits. We are our own universe. Therefore, in relation with the other spirit in front of us, that is also an entire different universe, we have the responsibility to understand and to respect and to tolerate and ultimately to be fraternal. And the very ultimate goal is to love each other. And of course that he will continue basically telling us that many of the disaffections that we have today are a product of our ignorance, lack of education as spirits to really be affectionate to each other. It is not necessarily that we are bad and that we did bad things, but it is the proof that we still have a ways to go. We are not ready. We are not perfect. We are not totally purified. There is a lot in us that needs to be lapidated, that needs to be pruned. There is a lot of prejudice in us still because we see things from our own point of view. There is a lot of selfishness, not because we are bad people. It's like the kids. The kids, when they are growing up, they are what? They are the center of the entire world. For the parents there, sometimes you see everything revolves around them in some ways. And then we grow up, and sometimes we still tend to think that everything is around us until we have lessons from life that show that the world is not revolving around us, that the world goes through its own pace, and sometimes we need to pick up that pace and understand that we need to look at life as the resources that is giving us, but not centralized around our own interests. And one of the expressions in relationship that we have that shows that we still act with selfishness, it is jealousy. And that is very significant because there is one passage in one of Chico Xavier's books that exactly gives us a great lesson on what jealousy, as a natural consequence of selfishness, can cause in us. Many of the passion crimes that exist today, it is based on that need of someone to possess the other, therefore not accepting that the other is free to take their own path and to have their own opinions and to have their own ways to live. The real freedom is that one that we give to someone and that person still decides to be with us, right? But if we don't give that, and if we force that configuration, this will never go to a good place. We will need to come back to revisit those relationships over and over and over until we are able to finally act according to God's design for us. And that will involve as well the relationship that we have with the children that we help to incarnate in this world. For many parents, and it is difficult for us to understand, for many parents, the law that reigns our relationships with the children that we bring to this world is love, is care. It is the attention. It is the concern. It is the desire to see the best in them. It is the desire to have a bright future. Number one, it is very shocking sometimes for us to see when some parents don't act in that same way. But it exists. It is sad, and it is always a good lesson for us not to forget that we are all spirits, that temporarily we are in that filial configuration. We may have had different roles in this family that was probably not very harmonious. And today, arriving in that specific configuration, we have the opportunity to rebuild that love and to promote a different kind of love. There are several examples in the works of André Luiz, also psychographed by Chico Xavier, that show that how many times difficult relationships, difficult marriages themselves, based on distrust, based on very materialistic impulses, not based on the fraternal love that belongs to the spirit, but only on the immediate satisfaction of impulses that comes from the body, arrive again in another incarnation as fathers and daughters, as mothers and sons, as siblings that can then have an opportunity to reconfigure that relationship, finally introducing to that link that they have amongst themselves, the link of the fraternal love. Therefore, rebuilding the harmony. I think that the title of this lecture should be Rebuilding Family Harmony, more than only building family harmony. Because we are on this earth during this incarnation many times to go through the tests, to the trials, through certain expiations, and all of them involve relationships. All of them will involve, in a certain level, family life. Relationships within those four walls of those buildings that we strive to call home in order to make it work for each other. And of course, we can ask at the same time, well, we are talking about this harmony, right? We are talking about problems and conflicts. And then we were talking about certain doctrines say that, marriage and those links cannot be broken. And then Jesus said, what God united should men not disturb. Does that mean that if a relationship is full of conflict, full of disharmony, full of hatred, cannot be broken. And then Allan Kardec very wisely asks as well the Spirit, so is that idea of a marriage being indissoluble a matter of a divine law or a matter of human law? And then it comes the most interesting point. The Spirit would say, oh, that is very much a human law. That is very much human. And that is very unnatural, the whole idea of you need to be together. If there is certain level of suffering, or if there is such a disconnection between souls. And that's when here comes another lesson that I take, which is the free will. What God united, man humans not separate. Here, this lesson means what we were talking before. When a union of souls, when a family configuration comes planned from the spiritual world, we are responsible to keep. Not because God wanted that, because that plan had us sitting on the table making it together. We are not receiving a plan that someone made for us. When we talk about families built in the spiritual realm and finally united here in the incarnate life, we are talking about a plan that we as spirits made together with the help of our spiritual friends, mentors, protectors, and guides to help us to point where and when this potentially may happen, how we're going to use our luggage that we have, our memory of the links that we had with people that we live with them for so many incarnations, and how magnetically we are going to come together and build a family again in order to keep growing spiritually. When this happens, any element or spirit that would try to break that commitment, what we do there and we sign, is a contract. It is a commitment. Therefore, we must strive to put to fruition. Therefore, that expression makes sense when Jesus said, may no man, may no human, may no spirit while incarnated go against the plan that they themselves created for their evolution. And if we do that, is there going to be a punishment? Let's say that we will call a suspension of the commitment. Many good things may happen. And then we go back to the spiritual world. We're going to sit down in front of our plans. Oh, this happened. This worked. This didn't work. Well, remember that you said that you're going to constitute family? Well, you gave up, right? So, let's sit down in the drawing board again. This needs to come back to the plan. We're going to need to add this one for the next step. So instead of looking this as a burden that we need to carry, this is an act of infinite love that God has for us. Every difficulty that we have is the opportunity to get rid of the difficulty. Every difficulty that we have is not something that we need to carry indefinitely, like a little rock inside our shoe that we cannot take, and we think that we need to walk 10,000 kilometers with that little stone in our shoe. No, just take the shoe off, shake that stone, put it back, and keep walking. And that taking that stone from our foot, sometimes because we are immortal spirits, means use that incarnation well to remove the obstacles that we ourselves put between ourselves and the ones that we love, by living together, understanding, respecting. However, the opposite is also true. And when the spirits tell Allan Kardec and tell us, hey, listen, you don't need to be together indefinitely, especially if that union that we created here is based on materialistic interests. Soon after you are together, you may realize, oh, I made a mistake. Or for those who don't realize that, our friend Joyce here basically told me something very nice. She said, well, how many times we look at a couple or we look at a family, we say, well, how don't they know that that's not working? And we have repeated opportunities to see that during our existence. And sometimes we cling to some values and we say, no, I need to be together no matter what. I need to suffer that no matter what. And then we go back to the spiritual world and then we say, finally I got rid of this burden, finally I got rid, I went through my expiation so well. And your friends look at you and say, what expiation? What are you talking about? That expiation, that husband that I had, that wife that I had, that person that I carried throughout my life that was horrible to me. So, no, hold on, let me go back here. Oh no, those ones were to help you during that time that you were in school. You got together, to give you that boost. You guys, fraternally studied together. That was okay that you had a flare there, but no, you should move on each one to your course. What are you talking about? What, 60 years together? Oh my God. Now, what do you have for this person? Oh my gosh, I can see this person now. I lived with them for all that long. I don't want to see them anymore. So, let me tell you something. Well, now, you should have gotten rid of this person a long time ago. Now you live 60 years with this person. Now you despise them. God doesn't want that for you. You're going to need to come back together because now you need to love each other. So instead of 60, there you go 120 years with a person that you didn't want to be together in the first place. What we are saying is, we need to use our free will. We need to use our intuition. We need to make sure that we are connected to superior realms of thought and understanding, and what we call the vibration. Because it is important for us to be connected to the source of the reality of our lives. We need to be connected with the superior spirituality. We need to be connected to our spiritual reality. We are immortal spirits living together, changing roles in that configuration of what is family. And we play those roles, and that family only grows because we practice in this nucleus to grow together in harmony, to go together making amends, forgiving each other, respecting each other. Every time that we are united for something else than the real spiritual values, this doesn't survive. This is fated to die. What dies is something that was dead from the beginning. There was no love. There was immediate interests. And they will fade away if there is no real affinity or real desire for affinity or real purpose that we helped to create for this existence where we live together in family. And after all, we understand now that we are spirits that are evolving for millennia. In this process of evolution, we get together in this divine organization that is called family. And God gave us that configuration in order for us to put in practice the best values and virtues that we can put in practice. That we also get together with those that want to see us progress and that we want to see them progressing as well. We get united with those that we have conflict with, probably for centuries, in different roles in this family. And then we have the opportunity today to rebuild that relationship with harmony, therefore respecting each other, trying to include the seeds of love that probably were not there before, but have the opportunity to be there now. We help each other through the hard times because we know that we feel responsible for those who are struggling today. And many times throughout our existence, we may have had a part on pulling them down when we were not okay. And today, we help to bring them back to where they need to be together with us so that we can grow. We also suffer in family with those who refuse to grow with us. But our love is not going to make us be far from them. The pain, struggles that life will give them will help them to come back to the same path that we are today. And for them, we are going to pray, and we are going to ask, and we are going to wait while we working ourselves in order to move forward during this process of evolution that has no end, from the family love through the extended family that we have, building harmony in spaces like that where we can act based on the synchrony and the affinity of ideas, of feelings, of tendencies, of aspirations, until the day that we finally reach the understanding of what the real love is, which is the universal love that makes the planets roll around the stars, that makes the universe be in harmony the way that it is. And every time that us as family revolve around each other with the same harmony that the universe is, that was created by God for us, we will know that we are in the path of growth together as a human family that is meant to be together in order to grow together, always and forever. Thank you very much. Oh, I need to stay here.
Thank you very much, Tiago. It was a great lecture, great reflection. I see myself in many reflection that you did, and I challenge everyone here who has a perfect family, like raise your hand, right? And I have to tell that actually we all do have a perfect family for you, for your needs, right? And actually we need to see that that is the perfect family for me to change myself, not for me to change my husband, my brother, my mom, my dad, right? Because that's the other thing. We think that we have to change the others. So it's the perfect for us. So any questions so far? Any comments from the internet? Awesome. Great. So thank you very much. Now we're going to prepare ourselves for the passes. And